President Trump's response to that was, looks like a third-rate grandstander named Representative Thomas Massie, a congressman from, unfortunately, a truly great state, Kentucky, wants to vote against the new Save Our Workers bill in Congress. He just wants the publicity. He can't stop it. He goes on to say that, the Republicans should win the House, but they should kick out Thomas Massie. I mean, what was that like, having the Eye of Sauron on you for insisting on an in-person vote in March 2020?
Oh, well, I'll have to write a book someday, but those tweets happened about 60 seconds after a phone call ended between me and President Trump, where he basically burned my ear off screaming at me for probably 3 minutes and said he was coming at me. He was going to take me down. And that's a sobering proposition when you've got a primary election 8 weeks away. You've been trying to keep the president out of your race. The person running against you says you don't support the president enough. And the president had 95% approval rating among the primary voters who were going to vote in my election. But I just stood strong. I said, listen, if truckers and nurses and grocery store workers are showing up for work, then Congress should show up for work too. And that was, I think, an unassailable message, because ultimately I was just trying to get people on record. The reason I was trying to get people on record is I knew this was one of the worst votes in history and nobody was going to be accountable for it. And so here we are 3 years later. Every bad thing that I said would happen as a result of doing that has happened. And even my colleagues here in Congress, a lot of them admit to me that they were wrong about that. They won't say it too loudly lest anybody hear it. And I got 81% in that primary, with Trump screaming at me and tweeting at me and whatnot. By the way, the reporters came up to me as I walked out of the chamber that day and said, your own president just called you a third-rate grandstander. What do you have to say? And I said, I was deeply insulted. I'm at least second rate. And they didn't have a comeback to that. But be careful. If you ask the X chatbot or whatever, the AI that Elon Musk has on X, if you ask it to roast me, it will say that I, like a washed up high school quarterback, I like to talk about that one event back on March 27th, 2020 too much. And, it's kind of funny that it roasts me for bringing that up. So if X is listening, if Grok is listening, I wanted to know that Zach brought it up, not me.
Yes. Yeah.
How much COVID policy remorse is there among your colleagues in Congress?
Not enough, not nearly enough. There should be, the policy isn't just the spending, the vaccine mandates, the shutting down of our economy, the compulsory masking, the way people were treated like cattle. There should be far more remorse. But frankly, that's a reflection of the voters as well. If you poll this, most people have moved on. Even a year ago, most people had moved on, and it wasn't in the top 5 issues of what people care about in any congressional district. You can't campaign on, well, I tried to save you during COVID. I mean, look at Ron DeSantis. That was part of his signature issue. And by being different governors responded differently, but he most famously opposed a lot of this COVID nonsense after it became obvious what we were dealing with. And he rode that wave, and he was polling better than Trump, but I think people have moved on and they've got other issues to think about now. And that's, people have just moved on, and so have my colleagues. And I think it's really unfortunate. And I wished that I had been able to get that recorded vote that day. We'd have a lot more people who wouldn't be back here in Congress perpetrating bad ideas like FISA.
So I have one last question, and then we'll wrap up because I know you have other stuff to get to. You're a busy man. But on that topic, one of the things that the CARES Act and that the pandemic stimulus spending led to, at least as far as I can tell, is inflation, right? Like that's something that's on American voters' minds. Do you see any signs? And also, you were elected during sort of the era of the Tea Party, reining in government spending, a sense of, well, we care about our fiscal health. And so as a result, we can't just have the money printer constantly print money forevermore. We have to be prudent because the bill always comes due. Do you think that that message has any hopes of having any sort of revival in the coming years, especially given the runaway inflation that we've seen? Or do you think it's just a totally lost cause and we're all screwed?
Let me assign a 95% probability to that last proposition. But I'm hearing the 5% chance that we can save it, and in the 30% chance that if it all goes to hell in a handbasket, I can still be here and have some credibility in putting it back together. I think what's starting to curb the appetite for spending and bring some realism into the discussion is the only thing that was ever going to curb our appetite for spending, and that is our creditors are starting to balk. The rates at which the government can borrow money now aren't what we want them to be. When we go out to do an auction or a sale for treasuries or bonds, what we're finding is the appetite isn't there, even at 4.5%. To get a guaranteed 4.5% return on your money, from the government backed by the U.S. military, that's not enough to loan that money to the government. They want 5%. That's an indicator that, when the private sector and the other countries the sovereign, funds who usually have the appetite for our debt, when they're losing their appetite, that's a sign that things are going south. And not to promote it too much, because Grok roasts me for this too, but I wear this debt clock that I built in Congress to remind people of it. And one side effect of me wearing this is I've noticed that because it, by the way, it logs onto Treasury's website once a day, gets the debt to the penny. It would do it more frequently, but they only publish it once a day. As a consequence of wearing this and looking at it every day, one thing I've noticed is the rate at which the debt is increasing is going up. So for the math nerds, that's the second derivative. And today, the debt per second is set average over the last year, $78,000 a second. It's just, I don't think people realize it feels like we're going over Niagara Falls right now to me.
Hey, that was a clip from Just Asking Questions. You can watch another one here or the full episode here. And please subscribe to our brand new channel to get us started off right and be notified when new episodes or clips go up. Thanks for watching.